Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. To my lecturer, Dr.Nisar. I'm Nuri Makarina binti Nizam from tutorial class TLC3. Okay, today I will be presenting on a crucial aspect of the Malaysian legal system, which is the constitutional division of legislative powers between the federal and state governments, and how conflict between these two authorities are resolved. To illustrate this dynamic, my presentation will focus on the landmark case of Mamat bin Daud and others versus Government of Malaysia. So, as we know, Malaysia practice a federal system with a constitutional division of legislative powers between Parliament and state assemblies. Parliament passes federal laws under the federal list, while state legislators enact laws under the state list, including matters concerning Islam. However, conflicts may arise when federal legislation is challenged for encroaching upon the legislative competency of the states. So, this brings us to the case Mamat bin Daud and others versus Government of Malaysia illustrates such a conflict. Now we move to the next, which is objective of this case. Here we have three objectives. First, identify the constitutional division of legislative powers between federal and state government of Malaysia. Second, examine the legislative competency of Parliament versus state legislators regarding Islamic law matters. And last, analyze how the Mamat bin Daud case applies this constitutional principle. So, what did Mamat Daud do? He and his friends conduct a Friday prayer, acting as the Imam, Bilal and Khatib at a village in Terengganu without holding an official licence which is Tolia from the state religious department. So this case become a major court case because the federal government, which is the police, arrested them using a federal law, specifically section 298A of the penal case, claiming the action could cause disunity among Muslims. So then Mamat Daud fought back in court and arguing Parliament has no right to make laws regulating Islam because Islamic offence fall strictly under the jurisdiction of the Sultan and the state government. So the court decision, the Supreme Court agree with Mamat Daud. The court ruled that the law section 298A was invalid and void when applied to Muslim because Parliament had encroached upon the state government's exclusive power to oversee Islamic matters. So last but not least, this case is famous. So famous because it firmly established that the federal parliament cannot simply create laws to control or penalize Islamic religious practice, as state authority belongs entirely to the individual state in Malaysia. Now let's look to the legal analysis for this case. Parliament enacted section 298A of the Penal Code under the guise of public order, federalist, to law control and penalize Islamic religious practice, which falls strictly under the state list 2 9 schedule. In section 298A, rule ultra vires and void, and the Supreme Court 3 and 2 majority decided Parliament has no jurisdiction to create laws regulating Islamic doctrine or practice. Legislate powers over Islamic offences belong exclusively to the state enactments, and the federal government cannot abuse its power over criminal law to trespass into the religious jurisdiction reserved for the state and the rulers. Okay, right now, discussion. Implications of Mamat Daud case. First, clear boundaries. The ruling clearly separate the legislative boundaries between federal parliament and state assemblies. Second, constitution is supreme. It confirms the federal constitution as the ultimate source of power, invalidating laws that breach the state list. Next, promise certainty. The case provides a clear test, path and subtest to determine whether a law truly concerns public order of Islamic affairs. Last but not least, is justice. ensure citizens are only prosecuted under laws made by the correct, constitutionally authorized legislative body. To conclude our presentation today, this case serves as a major turning point in our constitutional landscape. First, we're looking at the source. The Federal Constitution clearly separation of legislative powers between the Federal Parliament and state legislators under Article 74 and the 9th Schedule. When we're looking at jurisdiction, the Supreme Court applied peace and substance that making laws regarding Islamic religious offence fall strictly within the jurisdiction of state legislators, not the federal parliament. Alright, for the significant, this case stands as a landmark constitutional precedent defining the boundaries of federal legislative powers, providing that Parliament cannot must an Islamic law matter as a federal public order or criminal law to bypass state jurisdiction. Finally, for the outcome, the Supreme Court ruled by a 3-2 majority that Section 298A of the Penal Code was ultra-vires the federal constitution and therefore void and unconstitutional. That's all for me. Thank you.